money into the military, playing the trade war game with them, taking away their unfair
Well, it's
trade
like Trump
practice
said. He said,
advantages.
we've been in a trade war with China for 40 years and losing. I'm not starting a trade war. We're simply fighting back.
That's right. Absolutely. And of course, this was too much for the Chinese. So what is their reaction? Bam, biological attack, COVID-19 virus, flatten our markets, deprive us of the money we
And Trump
need.
knows what to do. Flood it with cash, even though it'll cause problems later. We'd be in a depression right now if he didn't do it.
Right. Well, we have to, the president is guarding against we're going to get hit by a hard deflation because of the burst
Well,
of
exactly. And people worried about inflation. In the short term, it's being a deflation. You're a smart cookie. Let's talk about that with Mr. Nyquist. Hunters, anglers. 9 weeks ago, we told you that governments and major corporations were buying up all the food they could and food futures into the future because they knew they were going to hype up COVID-19 and crash the U.S. stock market. They knew that shutdown of the economy would cause food shortages and spiking prices into the future. Communist China launched its bio attack out of the Wuhan city and province. They let 5 million of their people flee and spread it all over the world. But now China says they're open for business and the virus isn't a problem. But the United States has been crippled and we're told we're going to be shut down for 18 months. And Democrats are saying they're going to hold the cities, counties, and states they control hostage and then blame the depression on Trump. We've got to expose these people and their plan. That can make them back down if they know that we're aware of their operation, if they're going to get the blame. But also, we may fail, Trump may fail at this juncture, this battle. To win the war, we've got to boost our immune systems, and we've got to have high-quality storable foods. We've got all the high-quality supplements like X2, X3, DNA Force Plus, all our nano silver products, the skin creams, the topical sprays, the ingestion systems. We've got so much more at InfoWarsStore.com. We have our Real Red Pill Plus with the zinc and other great boosters for you and your family. But whatever you do, get those orders in today so you get these supplements out, and it's a 360 win. It funds the InfoWar, and we can now take food orders again. They had to pause to make sure they could get out the other orders. Now they have more food and 2 extra factories, our supplier, so we can start taking food orders yet again. And again, it's not just for this virus currently now. You need storable foods and a stockpile of all of the basics essentials like firearms, ammunition, water filters, supplements and things to boost your immune system because the globalists aren't going to quit here. Freedom isn't free. This is going to be a long fight, just like in 1776, politically, maybe even physically. We hope that is the case. So everybody needs to get prepared and dig in so you can't be controlled by not having food and basic essentials. Get your basic essentials at InfoWarsStore.com and know we have them in stock and we'll deliver them to you within days if it's the supplements, water filtration, books, films, t-shirts, survival gear. The food is back ordered. We have it in stock, but it's got to be packaged and shipped out to you. So get your orders in today at InfoWarsStore.com or call toll free 888-253-3139 to take your order and answer all your questions. But regardless, the most important thing is word of mouth and Paul revering right now and exposing what the globalists are doing and how China's open for have created out of all this. So this, I again believe, I know most of you believe, is the greatest threat ever facing our republic so far. So let's get active now, or we are going to lose everything we fought for. They're coming out with global cashless societies, cell phones to track everywhere you go. They're rolling out their whole agenda through this fear. Let's not be stampeded into becoming total slaves. You're the info warriors. You're the most informed, awake people out there. You are beyond critical. You are the future. You are the resistance, and I salute and thank you all.
Real talk. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Oh man, peace and love to everybody that's definitely been riding and vibing with WTDTA Radio. 2,000 listeners on our internet feed. I appreciate all the love and support, the concerns. Like I said before, without you guys, there will not be no us. So as long as you keep doing what you're doing, we're not going nowhere. Um, Major updates are happening, and so I want to take this time to make sure that everybody understands the actual updates and how they apply to a lot of the things that we're going to be discussing and dealing with. A lot of individuals have been looking at this whole coronavirus, the government shutdown proponent, and not really taking in consideration all of the things that it's impacting, especially in the world of banking and finance. So I'm gonna use this time to make sure that everybody really, get a get a grip. The world has changed, and when I say the world has changed in so many instances for the better, but for a lot of individuals, it's changed for something different. The only thing that doesn't change is change. Everything in life evolves and it changes. In business, you're either growing or you're dying. It's always evolution, it's always change. Uh, a lot of things are being placed into a lot of you guys' life, a lot of things are being removed from your life because of this evolution, this change. Uh, those of you that don't know me, you just met me through business associates, trustee training, and things of that sort. You don't have a very long rapport with me. Let me just open up to you shortly. In order for you to know where you're going, you got to know where you came from. And I don't know whether you have taken this time to really figure that out. A lot of folks are wondering why economically things are seeming to be caving in, and it seems like every time you take one step, it's like 10 more steps that go forward. My favorite line is, Mr. Bay, it seems like we do one thing, it's like five more things we got to do. And I can only respond with this. Here's my experience. You got to be careful what you pray for because you just might get it. You got to remain positive because the universe moves in what we call the power or the law of attraction. See, when you say things or you put your energy into things, you ever notice, like if you look back on all the things that it took to get you to where you are, imagine if you didn't go through the things that you went through, where would you be? See, when you were going through those things, you didn't actually know how it was going to end up. But if you overcame that adversity, and it made you a better person, and it brought you to a place of growth, especially spiritual growth. I do not believe that things happen by coincidence or by chance or by luck. I think it's a divine plan. So, since the divine plan is divine, that means it goes beyond how you feel about it. You know, you want things how you want them, but the universe is going to move certain things. Like I give an example. Someone said, "Well, I used to pray for $1 million home." And so the very next day they got evicted out of their home. And then it was like, man, what is this about? And it was like, well, being evicted out of that home was potentially part of the plan in order to get you to that next level. So you might have to go through being homeless, through adversity, through all these things to get to that point. See, the universe is not just unintelligent. Follow me? You got to think that whoever, quote unquote, the force or the entity or being, whatever you want to associate, that created all was not was a lot of things, but you can rest assured intelligent was one of it, and it has to be intelligent than you. You're never more intelligent than what created you. So when you say these things, when you wrap your ether and energy around those things, you are commanding the universe to open up and move to those things. Now, this is what I've noticed about people who are very successful. People who are very successful, they have a positive mind state. A lot of people will say, "Well, Bezo, how do you stay so positive?" You know, every now and again you'll say certain things, but you for the most part, you're always positive. And the truth of the matter is, a lot of people depend upon the energy in order for them to be able to move forward. So I listen to a lot of people, a lot of what they go through, and like a sponge, I absorb it. But if I can't help you, I'm definitely not trying to hurt you. So I'm going to reverberate to you what you need in order to see you through the adversity that you're going through. Um, we live in such trying times, and I remember I said this yesterday on last night's broadcast. Seven, almost 7 years ago, me and my wife was on this broadcast to the day, and I said soon there's going to be a series of events that's going to take place, and we as a species are going to learn to get along better than we ever got along with everyone else. Because see, there's going to be something commercially that's going to unify all of us, and it's going to be biblical. See, it takes a lot of energy to drum up a lot of negativity. So a lot of and I'm not picking on my queens. It's gonna take you gotta be, you gotta be well fed and well nourished and well taken care of to then argue about who shot, who did this, who shot John, who slept with Susan, this, that, and the other. You know, when it all come down to the get down, you're gonna get along with your mate a whole lot better than what you ever done in life. The only argument you're gonna have in your house is who ate the last can of beans. Because these times actually make you begin to appreciate the simpler things. Like they have social distancing. I want you to think about this concept. You are a human being, and some human beings have to interact with other human beings. But we've gone from walking at night, holding hands, and talking on the phone, and talking in person, to texting, sexting, and all this other stuff. We have become a total cyber generation that no longer interacts with people, but we interact with our machines and technology. So maybe the divine plan to bring people together is to give them a common cause and a common goal. I'm not going to say that COVID isn't a threat. I'm going to say that COVID has been, in my point of view, proven to be, without a lack of a better word, with a purpose. And I think this purpose is serving the agenda. And that agenda, I'm going to say it like this: I don't think the Most High um, makes mistakes. And I'm going to say the people who think that they are somehow clever enough to serve as the divine innovator between what you will call mortal man and the creator. Uh, in a lot of the scriptures, I use the Bible because everyone is very familiar with that. I've done a lot of comparative spiritual studies. So, pardon me if it seems like I kind of know a lot about a lot of things. I do a lot of reading. So that's just, I read somewhere in Christianity that you have to understand the allegories. Christ came for the ones that were lost. So if you are lost, then that was the purpose of what Christ has come for. We have to understand that whatever it takes to bring us back up on the path upon which we uh, desire to be on. I'm gonna use the word desire, that we pray to be on. I'm gonna use that. All those things, then the universe is intelligent, and the word does not come back void. And because the word does not come back void, you have to be mindful. Stay positive. I remember saying that about everyone is going to be able to get along a whole lot better. And so Beanie Weenie asked, "What do you mean, Jay? What do you mean?" And I said, um, "People today are busy doing what they do. And I bet most can't remember the last time they heard the birds sing." You're in the middle of spring going into summer. And even though they say you're supposed to stay indoors or stay away, stay within so many feet, you can still walk outside of your door, open your window, and listen to the birds sing. I always told people who were close to me, you know you're doing too much when you can't hear the birds chirping and singing. You're thinking they're not. It's only that you're so consumed with what you're consumed with, you haven't taken the time to appreciate those things. Imagine, uh, I've gotten texts and phone calls from people that say they're about to go stir crazy for being away from co-workers, school, this kind of stuff. They're about to go crazy. They don't know what to do. I get it. A lot of people, their lifestyles were totally contingent upon them going and doing their day to day. Now with the mention of a virus and or flu, whatever you want to call it, that again, we wasn't afraid of influenza in that regard. Or let me say it another way. There wasn't as much fear being promoted about influenza, which kills more people than COVID. So there is an agenda, and it's the agenda is predicated upon fear, and fear is not of the most high. So the fear that you're feeling is an artificial fear. And so if you're in your situation fearful, I'm giving you a message before we really go into this. You need to lift up your window and listen to the birds chirp. You need to look outside into a starry night. Tonight being a great example. You need to soak in and take in what this whole thing is about, because life is short and everything is changing. Now that I got that off my chest, I'm going to say this. You're going to have to really, really use this time wisely. Why? Because globally, y'all remember a few months ago, they look at your cell phone. If you're listening to me on a cell phone, are you actually on a 4G tower? You know, how many people by the response that's in this particular link, are you actually using 4G technology right now? 4G, 5G. What are you using right now? Just interested. I want you to send me a message in the chat. Let me see, because I'm going to show you something that you're probably not paying attention to. If you guys are actually utilizing any of the 4G, 5G technology to either listen to this, view this on YouTube, so forth and so on. Okay, we got somebody that said they're on 4. All right, this is what I want you to understand. Those that are on 4G technology, whether by cell phone, internet, and so forth, your devices were inundated with firmware to be able to utilize this new 5G tech. I'm gonna get a little techie for a second. I do computer programming also. We write computers, we build computers. We build computers and we write code. Let me say it that way. So what is happening is a lot of people who are experiencing the symptoms of COVID, uh, radiation poisoning causes the same type of symptoms. And it's ironic that if you look at the map of those individuals that are in the COVID stricken territories, you look at those who were all part of this 600 person indictment. Yeah, politicians got all indicted, whole bunch of them. Um, and let's make mention, Wells Fargo dropped a major bomb the day that they initiated the first declaration of this lockdown. Prior to that, they said they need another 911 scenario. Can't let a good disaster go to waste. If people are distracted and fearful, and you go from, you know, what color Gucci bag you're gonna get, what color I'm gonna paint my nails, what kind of hairdo I'm gonna go to, what are we gonna eat, you know, things are gonna get really dicey for a lot of people because right before the tax refund extension or the extension for taxes being collected, all these things came into play, and I kept warning everybody. I don't know why you're all relaxed. I told you the wall keeps people out and it also keeps people in. And it's ironic. 90% of the population is in prison in their own homes. And if they can imprison you in your own home out of fear, then they have a true agenda that I think most of the people that I speak to aren't really prepared for, especially when it comes to commerce and banking. Right now, most individuals who are not in the aspect of being CISA compliant are having a very difficult time actually doing certain things in a certain capacity. And I'm going to put it out there. My international audience has already informed me that in international spaces, internet access to bank accounts have been totally disenfranchised. Imagine if you woke up tomorrow to fuel up your SUV and it rejected your card. You call the toll free number and you get a recording. You drive to the local bank, the doors are locked. And so for a few hours you're in a panic mode because you have no more access. Oh my God, I can't get any grocery. I can't fuel up my SUV. I can't do this. I can't do that. You start thinking of a million and one things that you can't do. A lot of people's reality, they're getting a small taste. I talked about the brownouts, the power grids, all these things for months and months and months and months. And when we started talking more and more about getting in a certain position economically with your family estate, the I was building up to a point. See, ever since my co-host transitioned, personally, I went numb to what was going on out there, and you guys became my focus. But internally, I had to do a lot of restructuring with my family. And I cannot describe the anxiety of what that's like to be uncertain of tomorrow. But what I can tell you is if you focus on your plan that's at hand, you leave no room for fear or anxiety because you are built to overcome what the Most High has put before you. But you must focus. You have to focus on your focus. See, some of you need to be in away from all the hubbub, doing some real soul searching of exactly where you're going. In order for you to know where you're going, you got to know where you came from. I'm going to say this a different way. A cashless society that people are telling you about, You're already in one. You just didn't know it. See, uh, they don't have to come and lock you up in a FEMA camp. They can just say that you can't go outside for 6 months, 2 months, 2 weeks, 4 weeks to get the same effect. Follow me? Your plan for your existence has to exceed or be just as thorough as the opposition that's before you. And I know a lot of us don't treat our lives like a business, but that has to change starting tonight, because the information that you're about to hear, I am only a messenger. I cannot make anyone drink. I can only lead you to the water. It's going to be up to you. Current expected credit losses have forced the banks to now realize that they must now reconcile toxic derivatives. But the low hanging fruit is all of the quote unquote account holders that hold accounts that have not properly moved that accounting to a point where they can capitalize on the liabilities. I'll give you an accounting equation. I'm going to put it in the chat. If you master this accounting equation, then moving assets from point A to point B will not be a problem for you. If you don't know what this accounting equation is, you should already have your accounting manuals to know exactly how this works. I speak about this not boldly, but with a heavy heart, because a lot of people who haven't done this, when I ask them to initially do this, they're going to have to now substantiate some things. Some things that are going to probably be difficult. When I'm explaining that. See, they're offering this stimulus, right? For those that have been affected by COVID. A lot of places are requiring you to fill out an application. Let me explain to you about an application. What are the three things that you must that you are what are the three characteristics of a trust agreement? I'm going to put them in the chat. I'm going to say it, then I'm going to put it in the chat. Application, registration, and certification. So if you are dealing with an application, registration, and certification, then you are in fact in a trust agreement. And when you're in a trust agreement, there's accounting principles that you are subject to or immune to based upon not what you say but your actions in commerce. You're actually required to have a complex series of books of business which have various different accounting concepts to show that you're working to preserve the integrity of the estate. Now I know a lot of people saying, "Wow, he just done went from 0 to 100." No, I'm trying to slow walk you into the problem, to the solution. All right, the banks had to walk through that same level, but their accounting equation isn't assets equal liabilities plus equity in that perception, because they have made all of you guys liability. So their equation looks like this. I'm gonna get this right. This is what their equation looks like. Their accounting equation is liabilities equal assets minus equity. See, they get an allowance for credit losses. Banks don't lend money. What do banks lend? Who in the chat can tell me what banks lend if they don't lend money? Type it in. Banks do not lend money. They lend credit. So banks have gained an allowance for credit losses because you have not substantiated the method of accounting that you're using. So your actions or lack of actions is the main reason why they're extrapolating the value away from your estate. And this is being proven globally. A lot of you guys think revenue and income are the same, and they're not. Donald J. Trump proved that when everyone kept saying, well, we need to see your tax records. Isn't it true that you, it's like, look, there's three tax jurisdictions. There's taxable, tax deferred, and tax free. Donald J. Trump comes from a tax free jurisdiction because he knows the difference between income and revenue. And if that's over your head, I suggest you get these accounting equations. You got time, remember? You need to figure it out because speak now, forever hold your peace. Speaking or not speaking, silence is acquiescing, meaning you're agreeing. So if they're saying you're a liability, that means that liability that you have with them becomes an asset on their book because it's treated as an allowance. They are allowed to extrapolate your value. Hell, they have actually successfully, and I will give the devil his due, they have successfully, look, the wall that Donald Trump built to keep everyone out, the deep state has imprisoned you in your own home out of fear of a virus that's as old as the Lysol cans that you have seen growing up if you are a baby boomer like myself. And for the life of me, more people are buying hand sanitizers and toilet paper. But if I made this challenge last night, I said for those of you that are going and stocking up, notice how many people have not paid attention to the Walmart distribution stores or chains not having any physical equipment such as dumbbells, barbells, and weightlifting benches that they normally stock in sporting goods because people who know what's going on, they understand that they need a weak, destitute, uninformed population that they can control. Someone who's eating right, someone who's healthy, someone who's vibrating on the right frequency, someone who understands the power of the entire situation. It's not going to be an easy foe to overcome. A lot of you guys are unprepared, though. I can tell in a lot of the encounters that I have. A lot of people say, well, wow, you have a high energy. It's not that I have a high energy. It's just that I'm around a lot of positive people. I've got people that I've worked with for the last 6 years, since me and my wife had, last did a direct broadcast together on this segment. Never met them personally, but we have a very strong rapport because of the intervention of this technology. Yes, this thing has affected a lot of us in a lot of ways, but for a lot of us in this fight, it's just we got a captive audience now. We got more people that are paying attention to what's going on with their finances, what's going on with their future, what it could potentially be, what they got to do. Look, this is the perfect time to do an 8302 return if you're more amped to go through getting the stimulus from government instead of doing an 8302 return. I don't know what else to tell you. Matter of fact, if you haven't figured out what an 8302 return is, keep listening because we're going to go into that. But I got a lot of information, so I'm going to be up for a while. You know, who knows? I might get a visitor later on. I don't know. But keep in mind, in order for you to know where you're going, you got to know where you came from. This information is not to perpetuate fear, it's to make you aware. Remember, they said the revolution will not be televised. We say, what if it is? You just didn't know it. So all I'm saying is just pay attention. For we perish for the lack of knowledge. I say, as long as you're on my watch, that will not happen.
But the smaller towns with 10 to 5,000 people and less, you're not going to get it.
Unbelievable. I've seen that. And again, the way they do is they go, Trump says he's got a cure. We don't say that. We go, oh, look at this medical info in Europe, very promising. Look what this doctor is saying here in the U.S. And then they just say, you know, you need to be arrested. Why do you think they don't want people to be healthy and to know that these viruses basically don't have a chance in almost everybody if you have high levels of zinc?
Well, because, with vitamin C, vitamin B, vitamin D, and zinc, and quinine, it doesn't cost anything. All four of those once a week would cost you about $4.
Exactly, and you're saying the doctors. Listen, 3 weeks ago I went to the store because I wanted extra zinc because our formulas are multivitamins. They've got good zinc in it, but I wanted to boost it, and it was all sold out.
Okay, Alex, I want to say one more thing. I know you're pressed for time. Just for your listeners, I would go ahead. I use several of your products. I've been about a 3-year listener. I use several of your products. I would go ahead, because you're not going to be able to go to your doctor's office and get it if you live in these smaller towns. I mean,
Hold on, Paul's taking over in his time. I'll finish up. We're back in 60 seconds. I'm here to tell you, I don't need you to thank me and tell me I've done a good job. I've done nothing but my duty. I discovered a bunch of bloodthirsty scum coming after innocent people, and I've been fighting them for 13 years, and I'll never stop while I'm growing red. For 26 years, Alex Jones and InfoWars have been sounding the alarm for patriots worldwide, waking people up to the New World Order, Bohemian Grove, the American Deep State, the rise of Communist China, the plan for global depopulation, and global elite pedophiles who prey off of our young. The enemy has done their best to destroy us, but because of your support, our fight continues. Join us, support the InfoWar, and together we will slay the dragon. Keep fighting, Alex, you're the gladiator. Big Brother, mainstream media, government cover-ups. You want to stop tyranny? Well, so does he. Live from the Infowars.com studios, it's Alex Jones. Get your motor running. All right. Look, I'm going to get the name and number of all these callers, whoever wants me to, and I'm going to call you all. And Harmon, you don't ask me tomorrow. You just call these callers back so they get on, because we have 20 phone lines, and then I have a guest on I don't get to you, but I want to hear from you. So we're going to go quickly to your calls in the first hour tomorrow, people that are holding, I promise. Unless there's some new national emergency, but we're going to go to your calls. I got to finish up with Rob here, and then Paul Watson's set, always ready to take over in this hour. I don't like to cut into his time. But normally I would cut into his time. This is so big. I'm going to have to put an emergency report out about this. Soros is literally on record funding attorney generals and mayors and prosecutors. He's put in over 400 of them just the last 2 years. One of them is the attorney general in New York. And Soros is coming for us, folks, so pray for us. That's all I can tell you, and I'll tell you later about it. And it's okay. I expect all this, okay? I feel good, actually. I feel actually really healthy and strong and very close to God right now. So I'm not a victim here. I'm a warrior for truth in the fight. But I just need you to spread the articles and the videos. No matter what happens to us, I need you to continue on. We must win. We must continue this fight. You understand? But behind the scenes and up front, they're letting me know we're going to get your ass. Well, that's what has to happen. It has to happen. You'll have to deal with God. All right. Rob in Louisiana, go ahead and tell me. You're saying you normally sell medical equipment. And and everywhere you go for stations that just joined us, recap what's happening and then finish your story.
Okay, Alex, it's the small doctor's offices, the older doctor's offices, the older RNs. They know what people need. It's not these big, gigantic corporate hospitals.
Well, yeah, they follow orders, and they get to put you on a ventilator and all that. They make more money.
Yeah, well, I'm sure the governor and the health inspector or whoever has called these people and said, hey, don't do this. But the smaller guys, they're like, hey, I need quinine, I need vitamin C, I need vitamin D, I need these intravenous packs that the government sells. But this is my whole point. The FDA is within 2 weeks of taking control of that. They're gonna disperse it out to who they want, not who asked for it.
Exactly. For those that don't know, I occasionally go and get an IV of vitamin C and other stuff that makes me feel so good. And I've been hearing from the doctor's office that it's already sold out and the stockpile's buying it all up. For those that don't know, there's nothing like intravenous with these things, exactly. And those are known treatments, but again, they don't want the public knowing about it.
Exactly. A vitamin C intravenous pack will literally cost the doctor's office $6. I can sell it for 10, and then they sell it to you for 20 or 30 bucks. That's it. But just to tell your listeners, Alex, while they can, because people in small towns, they are not going to be able to go and get these things from the doctor's office, from these little med offices that are open for emergency places. That they're not going to get it. They're not going to be tested. They're not going to get it. So whatever they need, I would order as a user of some of your products. I would just go ahead while it's there. Because even ADL Labs, which you talk to more than I do, which I do talk to them, they're going to run out soon. Because the FDA is going to take it. They're going to take everything. And they are going.
Well, that's the thing. Okay, this is off record, but it wasn't off record when they told me. I just didn't want to get into the inside baseball. We want the topical stuff that these companies sell to hospitals. And I should have always had that anyways, but the really high-powered stuff, they say, sorry, the government and the stockpiles are buying anything that these companies can produce right now. So you know what you're talking about. Please continue. So tell them real fast and Paul's taking over.
The RNs have told us, RNs know more than doctors do. And the RNs...
That's right, because they run the show, they got to have the supplies, they got to run the hospital.
Exactly. The RNs have told me in these small, between 1 and maybe 6 doctors in these offices, they have said, we can't get this. The FDA will not send this to us. Why? We can buy it. And they will not send it to them. They don't want people to get well.
And again, for folks that don't know, this stuff's always been for the doctors. They've always been able to get this. This is approved stuff. That's what's crazy. Is take American biotech labs that we private label. They're in the news acting like we just pulled this out of a rabbit hat somewhere. And we're just making this stuff up. It's crazy. All right, God bless you, sir. I really appreciate your call. Absolutely, folks. You know what I'm personally doing to boost my body's defenses is DNA Force Plus, body's ultimate turmeric formula. And for topical, we're selling out these little 1 ounces. We're getting more of the 16 ounces in hopefully soon with the American Biotech Labs Nano Silver. But that's for topical. You can also gargle in your mouth. But look, it's crazy. They tried to keep the president from saying chloroquine was good because Europe said it was great, and vitamin C and everything, and zinc. And now they had to approve the hydroxychloroquine, which is just the drug form of what the anti-malaria drug's been for 300 years. The British discovered with the Dutch. Speaking of the British, Paul Joseph Watson takes over. Summit.news. His big story is linked up on drudgereport.com. Paul Joseph Watson, we appreciate you. Please take over.
Thanks, Alex. Yeah, I'm looking at a headline up on Summit.news, which went up about 45 minutes ago. Spanish government being sued for encouraging mass gatherings right as coronavirus hit. Now, we already know about Nancy Pelosi going out on the streets of San Francisco at the end of February, and in fact into March, encouraging people to attend the parade in Chinatown. We know about public health officials in New York City, again as late as February and into early March in the case of de Blasio, encouraging them to attend parades in Chinatown. And in fact, on March 2nd, and I just put out a video about this earlier, by the way, which I'm going to play in the next segment, de Blasio, as late as March 2nd, that's just over 3 weeks ago, is saying, go out on the town, go to shows, go to the cinema, go to sports games, go and congregate in large groups. We know in Italy, in February, right as this virus began to spread and percolate throughout Italy, which of course has been completely devastated by it, the left-wing mayor of Florence and all these big left-wing activist groups across the country encouraged people in northern Italy, where you have all these tens of thousands of Chinese migrants going back and forth between China and Italy, because they all work in the northern Italy textile industry, so they can use slave Chinese labor but still have it say made in Italy on the purse or the bag. While that was taking place, they were telling Italians to go out and hug and kiss Chinese people on the street. How many more examples do we need to see of this? Well, now we have another one, which I just learned about today. And this is even worse. And I'm going to obviously carry this over into the next segment. But we had a story out of Italy, which the mainstream media made such a big deal out of. Back on February 19th, there was a Champions League soccer game in Milan, northern Italy. Again, this was before the lockdown, which was attended by 40,000 residents of Bergamo, which again now is the worst hit individual area in the entire world in terms of coronavirus. 40,000 fans attended this soccer game on February 19th. The media described it as a biological bomb, during which the virus was widely spread across northern Italy. That was according to the mayor, Giorgio Gori. So the media hyped up that story massively as one of the primary reasons why coronavirus spread so rapaciously around Italy. This story they've completely ignored because it was the Spanish government directing its own citizens to go out on the streets and congregate in huge groups of tens of thousands, and in fact in the case of Madrid probably over 100,000 people, to attend feminist rallies. This occurred on March 8th, days after they'd already banned people from going to soccer games, from going to basketball games. So even nearly a week after they banned them from doing that, the Spanish government got up on television and social media and encouraged hundreds of thousands of Spaniards to get out on the street, congregate in huge groups to mark International Women's Day. Once again, political correctness proves deadly. Woke activism proves deadly. I'm going to get into it on the other side, as well as the latest news with coronavirus, the latest news with celebrities whining about how they have to quarantine in their 10-bedroom mansions. We'll get into that and more. On the other side, breaking news at Summit.News. Don't go away.
InfoWars presents The David Knight Show, The Alex Jones Show, and The War Room with Owen Schroyer. Infowars.com/show. Ladies and gentlemen, we told you almost 9 weeks ago this virus was man-made and that it was killing people and that we should be concerned about the crisis it was going to create when it got here, because if it was anywhere as deadly as the Chi-Coms were saying, the left was going to seize on it, exacerbate the crisis, and try to overthrow Trump by plunging the economy, which they then did exactly as we said, because these criminals, if anything, are 100% predictable. They will create crises, they will exacerbate crises, they will let no crisis go to waste. Then we knew Trump was being set up by trying to stop the stock market plunge. We said, ride the tiger, go with some of it, mitigate the problem. The virus does kill some people, but don't let them totally shut down the entire economy. All of that also unfolded, and we laid it out. Now, we told you that storable food would sell out. We told you that food would be the new toilet paper and something you actually need. The supply chains are breaking down. Most places can't get food. Food prices are going up. Those of you that ordered food wisely should be very happy you've gotten your food. Those that ordered a few weeks ago, it'll be coming very soon. We're right on target for the dates we told you. But our major food supplier, the only big one left that actually has high quality food, had to suspend sales, be able to catch up and get all your orders out. They were able to secure a lot of food they now have and turn on 2 big factories that are essential services. Because a lot of other folks are just getting out of the business. It's too volatile. But it's their Christian mission to do this. It's what they believe in. It's how 12 years ago they came from nowhere, now the biggest company in the United States, probably the world, that has storable food. We're partnered with them. Your order, when you order at InfoWarsStore.com, is their full spectrum. Get the best price, and you go right in at the point you election 10 years ago openly saying in a major think tank that we're going to use a bio release to bring in world government. So they're on record with all of this, ladies and gentlemen. And this is their plan. So we know their next move, and it's going to be even more drastic. So dig in and get ready. Get your storable food today at InfoWarsStore.com.
With the daily wear and tear of the environment on our skin, it's only natural that it starts to crack and take damage. Wind, heat, water, and age are telltale signs that it's time to start taking care of your skin. With the InfoWars Super Silver Cream, you can keep your skin feeling silky smooth and begin to heal the damages of the world around you. Created with ingredients like
Wow. But what we're going to do is this. A lot of people are actually starting to figure out exactly which side of the fence they're playing in all of this. They're starting to really figure out exactly how a lot of this stuff, implodes. Um, Let me give you an example. We talk about accounting to give you an ability to maneuver. I talked about banking in the box because it became a product that everyone could actually acquire where they can actually have their own banking system in their own back pocket and they can utilize the accounting principles, as an alternative. Current expected credit losses came down at the preset of FASB 56. And we have plenty of documented footage of FASB 56 and various different things you can actually utilize. I'm going to go into a couple of just scenarios here. Those of you that are melanated, and you've already substantiated your estate and dealing with your trust and got your accounting on point, this is a great time to start hedging your natural resources such as portable land and or natural melanin, to be able to gain some foothold into a lot of the implementation of assets. See, a lot of people are going to be asked before they take the stimulus to list their assets, and anything that you use Federal Reserve notes to acquire is not an asset; it's a liability. When I say whatever you do on one side of the ledger's got to be done on the other side, what do you think happens when you fail to list assets properly? Or let's say you list an asset on your book. How do you think they're listing it on their book? They're listing it as a liability. Now, he who leaves the battlefield first loses. Whenever you default or breach on a contract, then they get to enforce an Article 9 security interest in whatever that contract proportion is. Whether you're a creditor or a debtor, you have an Article 9 security interest in the transaction because it's considered a secured transaction. Now, forget all of the stuff that's going on. If you know that you can maneuver through a lot of the red tape and bureaucracy because you have tangible assets where you can enter into certain markets and do certain things, you're going to gain a foothold in what you need in order to, put what you need to have in play. Let me give you the best example I can give you. Okay, let's say the essential vitamin that you need dwells within inside of a plant that you presently have in your refrigerator right now. But here's the deal. You have enough of that substance in your refrigerator to last you about a week, 2 weeks, maybe a month. Now it won't be you know all of the stuff that you normally would enjoy as far as all those extra carbs and stuff that's bad for you that tastes really good because you that's all you've been used to. But we're talking about life sustaining foods such as vegetables, raw vegetables, things of that sort. So this particular vegetable will definitely save your life. A lot of you guys don't realize that if you follow certain instructions and if it truly if it bears a seed, you can actually reproduce that plant. Like, I am using this as an example of how you got to look at things. Only acquire the things that can reproduce itself. have that in large quantities. So when you draw the life sustaining nutrients from it, you can then extrapolate the seeds and plant and then reap the harvest. If you have enough to feed yourself and enough to feed your family, then you'll continue to have enough to be able to share with your neighbor. I just want you to think about that. Because, see, what I'm hearing in a lot of people's rants and raves of this, that, and the third is that they're forgetting a very essential part of this. My children used to come into the house and say, Dad, there's nothing to eat. I look in the refrigerator and I see all kind of stuff to eat. But it's not what they want to eat. They want to eat a whole bunch of zoom zooms and wham whams and sugars and GMOs and all that other stuff, which was, we didn't know any better. You have children, don't judge me. And so, but as I got older, I remember also being a kid, and when I ever said I was hungry, my grandmother and my mother, they prepared meals where you wasn't hungry. You ate, you got life sustaining nutrients, you ran outside, you played. And I started thinking about all that these last couple of weeks. Like, wow, why is it that the foods that my grandparents used not only did it have a better taste, and then I was like, oh, because it was really organic. Oh, they knew what they were feeding, the chickens. They knew what they were doing. Their entire ecosystem, they controlled it. See, I'm from South Georgia. It's an agricultural state. So, me learning how to grow a tomato plant, cucumbers, and things that I need that I consume daily is not a big, hairy deal. Never thought I would have to do it, but thank God that I was taught to do it. And so I think about all of that now, like, wow, so really, all everyone really needs to do is just do their small part. And you could actually come out ahead in a lot of instances. Now, I'm going to say this a different type of way. What if your inability to function in commerce becomes what sentences you to a FEMA camp? Since you can't take care of yourself, we'll take care of you. You don't have to worry about rent, car note, none of that stuff. Matter of fact, you can come with us. We'll put you in a nice apartment, so to speak, and you just have to work it off. Now that sounds crazy, but these are the same people that ran District 13. This District 13, I suggest you really look that up because this was a Korean district where they had an entire population of people that was born into servitude. Like they owed the country a debt, and so they literally had to work for free in labor camps to pay out these debts. These are the same individuals that are running the system. Matter of fact, a very good friend of mine, June J. Choi, warned me about 4 years ago of what was coming. And I laughed because, see, this was during the time when I was taking care of my stepfather, and I really got off in holistic healing and various different foods, and I went through a period where I had to take care of my mom and her husband, medically as well. And so I really got off into a lot of organics at that time. And I learned a valuable lesson on how to survive purely organic, which was life sustaining. And so it's ironic that now when I look around, I see those things like, oh, but wow, a lot of people are going to have to go through some things before they really get it. And so I want you to focus. Let me give you a clue. Food is going to be the new gold and silver. Okay? This is what I suggest. If you actually have any property, land that you can grow a tomato plant or any type of plant for that matter that's life sustaining, and you're in the driver's seat right now with that property, and you're trying to figure out what his eyes gonna do, I'm going to tell you a few things. This season, get your almanac, look up what actually grows this time of year. Because listen to this. Not only is 5G technology causing COVID like symptoms, when they fire up these radiation towers, it also has a mechanism which enhances vegetation growth. That's what they're not telling you. Also, I have documented footage of this that I can't really post, but my international crew who has been tuning to our feed internationally, um, we'll make that available for those that want. Let me say it that way. If you're very interested in finding out more, then just send me a link or send me just a notice, and I'll make that available. That way we'll keep everything going. Um, because see, there's a lot of things that you got to keep in mind. A good friend of mine told me something that lines perfectly up with this that happens in Detroit. The reason why they never fix the water there is because when you have water that has that type of chemical imbalance, it's great for nutrients to grow stuff in, such as vegetation and so forth. I'm just simply saying you're finna see some stuff that's gonna be biblical, and I think if you really, really, really use this time wisely and just back up, just like take where you are right now and back up 6 months ago, 9 months ago, and then look at what was happening economically, you're gonna notice something. Ain't it ironic that everybody was all distraught and so forth? And again, it was sad that Kobe, you know, anytime somebody lose their life in that magnitude, it's not a celebration. At least not to me. Not in that way. I mean, you celebrate the person's life and their achievements and things. That's what I get all that. But I'm just simply saying, I remember that because that day was a very significant day when I actually saw the ceremony of all of the fellow athletes all paying tribute and homage to Kobe. I remember all of the things I saw during the award ceremony and the musical awards and all this other stuff. I remember getting phone calls from people who are very, and I don't watch television. I work in media, but I know the least, I'm the least most informed person about what goes on television. I watch things for a very different reason. If I can't learn from it, you don't have Bezel Bay's attention, and that's a blessing and a curse. If I'm sitting there and I'm not learning anything, I feel that my brain is melting. It's like it's weird with me. If I don't learn, if I'm not learning something, I have to disengage. I have to mentally disconnect. So what I watch, that's 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 my niche. That's what holds my attention. If that makes sense. So I'm constantly watching and being reminded, like deja vu. I've seen this before. This time around, what are you gonna do? Who are you gonna help? You know, who is going to who are you actually going to literally um bring forth this information to in a way where they can appreciate it and utilize it. So you realize there's enough stuff going on where if we focus, we'll see the light at the end of the tunnel. I went through publication 1212 and discovered that COVID was actually written into the publication um, in the December edition of publication 1212, which is an IRS manual. And I thought it was rather strange that before this COVID virus became mainstream media, like the 911 towers going down, so to speak, maybe that was just careful planning, or just like a, maybe that was really the plan. The plan was they were eventually going to weaponize a lot of things. I have been slowly coming to the realization that what's on the opposite side of this, some of you guys are going to be able to be the bridge to help others across, because a lot of you, some of you guys are ahead of the curve more so than others in your respective industries. Logistically, I will say this: as of today, as of yesterday, three major events in the stock market has greatly affected the pricing of food, commodities, and various different things. Uh, those of you that are working with me in logistics, um, it will behoove you to get with me so you will see the aftermath of what they're doing, because they're not only they're creating a health crisis, they're creating a food crisis out of scarcity. And so a lot of you guys are going to be able to provide some relief and resolution and remedy in these situations because of the positioning that you now hold. I got a lot of individuals that aren't going to be able to get into the platform properly because there's a learning curve that they got to take time to do. Like, I'm taking classes, those that want to get into the trustee training, the accounting courses to be CISA compliant, you need to do that ASAP. Get into the schedule ASAP. You need to do these things because, as I got a lot of people now that have a lot of extra time on their hand. So I have a whole lot more people that are willing to volunteer their time and expertise to help. So with having that level of help, it's going to be easy for us to focus. See, right now I'm about a week behind on the publications for the last set of books that I was actually publishing, only because I kind of had to make a mental shift. There's some information that I can only bring out in the actual books that are being published. Why? Because these books are actually 7 years um, ahead of the curve of what we're talking about. But I could not find a publisher that was, they were, in other words, the publishers were afraid to publish what we're talking about. Now that it's in the mainstream, I decided to put it out on our own network privately so we can control all the rights. We don't have to worry about it being circumvented and all that good stuff. And those of you that are actually in my civics classes, you know that a lot of what I teach from those classes actually come from the book. So if you're in the class, you're actually getting the book in real time, but you're applying it into your situation. Now, once you buy the material, it's laid out in a literal format. Some of my people are they're visual people. So if they got all the intel in front of them, they have the books, the manuals, all of the research material, then they can make an informed decision. I took that curriculum and used that as a working formula, and this has been years of research for those cases where we have worked with students who had to overcome child support cases, overcome court cases. They've had to actually offset and discharge a debt, whether it's for utilities for a utility company, or they had to do a student loan, or they had to do past tax collections. They had to um, prevent a repossession of a vehicle to take place, or they had to actually purchase a vehicle. We have multiple cases with all the research, in that particular working format, which became the recapture and recovery, which became the recapture and recovery program that was launched simultaneously off of the in-depth interviews with Mr. Dan Norris, who is now the CEO of Transfer System. I sent a text to Dan the other day. Actually, I was like, "Hey, buddy, just checking on you to make sure you ain't one of these CEOs that done stepped down." And he sent back the message like, "Far too busy for that." Um, Maybe these guys knew more than what we gave them credit for. And I'm only bringing that up because Dan works in the debt recovery industry, and I can say unequivocally there's a direct connection between the Wells Fargo uh, testimony, the up and coming um, Q1 reports for Deutsche Bank, and the recent merger of the Federal Reserve with the Treasury. This is major news that probably will begin to start to surface, but it's not. These are the things that are happening behind the scenes because everybody is all panicking about the COVID, which with good reason because COVID is a major um, phenomenon. But we just literally have to be prepared. That's all I'm gonna say. Keep listening because if you listen long enough, you just might learn something.
in migrant areas to avoid riots. Attack
Hmm.
it, intimidate the people inside it. So good luck enforcing measures against them in regards to social distancing and staying indoors. In fact, remember the video out of Naples, Italy, where the people in the apartments from above were shouting down at the migrants to get inside, who were completely ignoring them and continuing to roam around the streets. In a letter leaked to magazine Le Canard and Chan, French Secretary of State to the Minister of the Interior, Laurent Nunez, advises it's not a priority to enforce closings in certain neighborhoods and to stop gatherings. In a separate video conference call, Nunes told other officials that restricting movement and shutting down shops in France's infamous banlieues risks igniting violent social disorder if enforced too rigorously. So basically they're saying all those measures that French citizens are subjected to in the rest of the country, where they have to fill in a form to leave the house because they get stopped at police checkpoints and roadblocks saying, why have you left the house? What is your reason? That will not be enforced against France's ever so diverse and lovely migrant population once again. Meanwhile, in Sweden, another nirvana of diversity and tolerance, like watching a horror movie, Sweden's liberal approach to coronavirus under fire. Now, Sweden, in comparison to other European countries, hasn't legally enforced any quarantine or social distancing measures. They've told their population to abide by social distancing, but it has no legal force. They're not going to get fined. And in fact, gatherings up to 50 people more people are working from home, but life is pretty much going on as normal. So they're taking a very different approach. People in neighbouring countries in Scandinavia have said in one case, in terms of a Danish journalist, that it was, quote, a bit like watching a horror movie. And indeed, if you do look at Sweden's coronavirus cases, 146 people have died so far, which is more fatalities than Denmark, Norway, and Finland combined. So it's too early to tell yet, but it seems as though Sweden refusing to enforce quarantine and social distancing measures because of their liberal outlook is proving fatal once again. Don't go away, we'll be right back.
9 weeks ago, we told you that governments and major corporations were buying up all the food they could and food futures into the future because they knew they were going to hype up COVID-19 and crash the U.S. stock market. They knew that shutdown of the economy would cause food shortages and spiking prices into the future. Communist China launched its bio attack out of the Wuhan city and province. They let 5 million of their people flee and spread it all over the world. But now China says they're open for business and the virus isn't a problem. But the United States has been crippled and we're told we're going to be shut down for 18 months. And Democrats are saying they're going to hold the cities, counties, and states they control hostage and then blame the depression on Trump. We've got to expose these people and their plan. That can make them back down if they know that we're aware of their operation, if they're going to get the blame. But also, we may fail. Trump may fail at this juncture, this battle. To win the war, we've got to boost our immune systems, and we've got to have high-quality storable foods. We've got all the high-quality supplements like X2, X3, DNA Force Plus, all our nano silver products, the skin creams, the topical sprays, the ingestion systems. We've got so much more at InfoWarsStore.com. We have our Real Red Pill Plus with the zinc and other great boosters for you and your family. But whatever you do, get those orders in today so you get these supplements out, and it's a 360 win. It funds the InfoWar, and we can now take food orders again. They had to pause to make sure they could get out the other orders. Now they have more food and 2 extra factories, our supplier, so we can start taking food orders yet again. And again, it's not just for this virus currently now. You need storable foods and a stockpile of all of the basics essentials like firearms, ammunition, water filters, supplements and things to boost your immune system because the globalists aren't going to quit here. Freedom isn't free. This is going to be a long fight, just like in 1776, politically, maybe even physically. We hope that is the case. So everybody needs to get prepared and dig in so you can't be controlled by not having food and basic essentials. Get your basic essentials at InfoWarsStore.com and know we have them in stock and we'll deliver them to you within days if it's the supplements, water filtration, books, films, t-shirts, survival gear. The food is back ordered. We have it in stock, but it's got to be packaged and shipped out to you. So get your orders in today at InfoWarsStore.com or call toll-free 888-253-3139. We can take your order and answer all your questions. But regardless, the most important thing is word of mouth and Paul revering right now and exposing what the globalists are doing and how China's open for business and ramping up production after only 2 months, and we're told we've got to shut down forever. And we can't even say that it came from communist China. The good news is people are really starting to wake up to the fact that even if this kills 50,000 people, there's no way to stop it. We can't lock down all of society to do this and let all the prisoners go and let crime rates explode. This is the biggest threat our country has ever faced, and I cannot express to you enough. Just because we're playing down the virus, because I believe it's a simulant and not that deadly, does kill some, still a big problem, doesn't mean that we're not facing the biggest crisis ever from the hysteria the globalists have created out of all this. So this, I again believe, I know most of you believe, is the greatest threat ever facing our republic so far. So let's get active now, or we are going to lose everything we fought for. They're coming out with global cashless societies, cell phones to track everywhere you go. They're rolling out their whole agenda through this fear. Let's not be stampeded into becoming total slaves. You're the info warriors. You're the most informed, awake people out there. You are beyond critical. You are the future. You are the resistance, and I salute and thank you all.
Leading a frontal assault on the lies of the New World Order, it's Alex Jones. You're listening to the Summit.News Radio Hour with Paul Joseph Watson.
Go back, and I'm going to throw to my new video here in a second, the truth about social distancing, but I want to urge you to get the great products at InfoWarsStore.com. Of course, it's never been more important than now to boost your immune system, and you can do that with the 50% off massive discount of Real Red Pill Plus right now at InfoWarsStore.com. Also, I'm told that the storable food, which is, of course, absolutely crucial at this time of food shortages, panic buying, and so on, the government has stockpiles of storable food, so why shouldn't you? That is slowly coming back into stock. So take advantage of more great discounts by getting the InfoWars Life Select storable food or at least getting in the list to get that food, because of course there is massive demand. All available at InfoWarsStore.com. War Room with Owen Schroyer is coming up after this, but here is the new video, The Truth About Social Distancing. Here it is.
You should not be meeting friends. If your friends ask you to meet, you should say no. If your friends ask you to meet, you should say no. You should say no.
Responding to a drop in business in late February, Nancy Pelosi encouraged the people of San Francisco to gather in large crowds in Chinatown.
She has been going around to show that it is perfectly safe to be here.
It's exciting to be here, especially at this time, to be able to be unified with our community. We do want to say to people, come to Chinatown. Here we are. Come join us.
So having tacitly denied the severity of coronavirus by urging people to congregate in huge groups as recently as a month ago, Pelosi then had the nerve to blame Trump's early denial for the spread of COVID-19.
The president, his denial at the beginning was deadly.
You must stay at home.
Come join us. We should be taking every precaution. Come join us.
That's not social distancing. On February 9th, New York City Health Commissioner Osiris Barbeau posted a tweet urging citizens to flock to Chinatown in large numbers to celebrate the Lunar New Year, while suggesting that advice to avoid crowds was misinformation. She urged people to take the subway, visit restaurants, and attend parades.
There is no reason not to take the subway, not to take the bus, not to go out to your favorite restaurant, and certainly not to miss the parade next Sunday.
A week later, she was still urging people to go out into crowds in order to rebuke discrimination. That's not social distancing. On the same day, Mark D. Levine, chair of New York City Council Health Committee, lauded how huge crowds gathering in New York City's Chinatown was a powerful show of defiance of the coronavirus scare, tweeting 4 images of large groups of people gathered to celebrate the occasion. Most of the attendees were Chinese, and some of them had almost certainly recently returned from China. That's not social distancing. Now New York is the hardest hit state in the entire country and accounts for over 66,000 corona infections. On March 2nd, New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio urged New Yorkers to get out on the town despite coronavirus. He told them to go to cinemas where they'd be in close proximity to hundreds of other people, and even recommended a specific film. That's not social distancing. As late as March 3rd, London Mayor Sadiq Khan said it was misinformation to suggest large crowds shouldn't be gathering at concerts or on public transport, and that they faced no risk.
If people are coughing and sneezing on a crowded tube carriage, that is going to put you at risk. You know, people might be saying now, as the mayor of the city, should we still be getting on public transport and using the tubes?
Well, it's very important that we don't spread panic or alarm based on misinformation. And what we need to do as politicians is to rely upon the best advice we have from the public health experts and from the chief medical officer. There is no risk in using the tube or buses or other forms of public transport or going to a concert.
On March 10th, he said there were, quote, no specific concerns about using public transport. Just over 2 weeks later, after London became the epicenter of the virus outbreak in the UK, Sadiq Khan changed his tune. He pleaded with people to stay at home and revealed that nearly a third of Transport for London staff are now off sick or self-isolating themselves. Guess the cleaning did. All of this, many rush hour trains are still packed because Khan made the galaxy brain decision to take half of them out of service. Social distancing UK style. That's not social distancing. Meanwhile, dog walkers in the Peak District with no one around them for half a mile are getting drone surveilled and publicly shamed by police. Meanwhile, flights from New York continue to land in London with passengers undergoing no checks whatsoever. That's not social distancing. And let's not forget how the left-wing mayor of Florence and leftist political activist groups encouraged Italians to hug Chinese people on the street. That was last month. Now Italy has the most coronavirus deaths in the entire world. Tens of thousands of Chinese migrant textile workers, many of them illegal, are employed in the town of Prato, near Florence and across Lombardy.
the epicenter of the pandemic. Many of these Chinese migrants traveled back and forth between Italy and China during the peak of the coronavirus outbreak, and Italians were urged to go out and have physical contact with them to prove they weren't racist. According to top Italian virologist Dr. Giorgio Paludi, patriarchy. That's not social distancing. So all these Western leaders actually urged against social distancing for weeks as the virus spread around the globe, because they saw it as more important to prevent racism. They were even allowed to urge against social distancing via social media. Were any of them banned? Did any of them have their posts deleted by social media giants? Did any of them apologize? No. Yet the president of Brazil, Jair Bolsonaro, had his tweet censored for encouraging precisely the same thing our leaders encouraged for weeks on end. Meanwhile, Twitter allows literal Chinese Communist Party propaganda in the claim that the US was responsible for the COVID outbreak, while Laura Ingraham gets suspended for tweeting about an FDA-approved drug that numerous studies say cures coronavirus. Throughout January and February, the mainstream media repeatedly claimed it's just the flu, bro, didn't question the numbers coming out of China, and were more preoccupied with labeling people racists for making bat soup memes. Were any of them banned? Did any of them have their posts deleted by social media giants? Did any of them apologize? No. Meanwhile, in